Hi guys, my name's Rowlands. I'm a nutritional balancing practitioner, and in this video I'm going to talk about something really important, really common, and that is depression. Now, a lot of people think depression's all in the head. Hopefully this video is going to explain the reasons why for a lot of the time it's actually not in the head. It's more physical. We see it time and time and again with people that start a nutritional balancing program, and they're quite astounded actually by fixing the body. You actually fix depression. So one of the leading causes of depression is low energy. Now, low energy is actually so common these days. A lot of people don't even realise they've got low energy because they're often surrounded by people that are also low in energy. Other people are in something called sympathetic dominance. So sympathetic dominance is a fight or flight state of the body, and what that does, it kind of tricks the body into thinking it's got energy, but in reality it's just running on this sympathetic fight or flight nervous system. Now, what generally happens is when people begin a healing program, like the nutritional balancing program, then it kind of reduces the need for sugars and carbohydrates, etc. It removes scaffolding that the body kind of puts up for itself in order to get through the day. And what people find is that their true energy and exhaustion will tend to rise up, and they'll, for once in the 20, 30 year, 40 year lifespan, they'll experience the exhaustion that the body's actually going through. So low energy is a really important one. If the body's low on energy, the mind's low on energy, it's not working properly, and you'll tend to find people get depression. Another one, really important one, is sleep. Most people today just do not sleep enough, and even more important is they don't really sleep at the right times. Now, there's something called the circadian rhythm, and what that does is it's the sleep and wake cycle. And what happens if you go into bed after 10 or after 10:30, the body kicks itself into a fight or flight state because it feels stressed, it's not in that natural rhythm, and it'll release hormones and cortisol to keep a person awake. Another issue, most people don't get enough time in bed. They'll sleep for 5, 6, even 7 hours. It's just not enough for human beings. We need at least 8 hours, even 9 and even 10 hours. I tell everyone on a nutrition balancing program to try and sleep as much as possible. If you're lacking in sleep, the body's not well rested, it's not well rejuvenated, and what happens is you tend to get depression. Very important one, very common, and something people just don't realise. Another one is low adrenal hormones. Because of people's diets today, because of stresses, because the adrenal glands aren't working properly, the hormones just aren't regulating right in the body. And the hormones, especially adrenaline, testosterone, aldosterone, etc., these are kind of like the energy pumps of the body. These keep a person grounded, they keep a person feeling good, feeling energetic, they have a certain spark to them, and it's really important to make sure that these hormones are well balanced in order for you to feel really good throughout the day. Now, another issue is the thyroid gland. The thyroid and adrenals tend to work together. The thyroid gland's a little bit like the spark plugs of life, so they give you that spark, they give you that little vitality, and the adrenal glands keep you well energetic, really grounded, and really feeling full from within. These are really so important, and most people today are running low on hormones because their adrenals and their thyroid gland just isn't working properly. I was astounded at how good I felt when my adrenals and my thyroid started to work properly. People need to realise that the human body is designed to be happy. It's not really designed to be depressed. And when the body's given what it needs and it's working properly and functioning in a proper manner, the body just feels good, it feels happy, it's its natural state. So that's really important to understand. Another one's minerals. That section was more of a physical / chemical section. This section's more about minerals. Something that we see really common on a hair analysis is people that have got high tissue calcium and magnesium. Now, what happens when the body's stressed is the body tends to put a shell around itself, a little bit like an eggshell of calcium and magnesium. And what that does is it numbs a person and makes them feel depressed and down and kind of withdrawn from life and society. Now, the body does this as more of a defense mechanism to keep a person safe because the outside world is just too stressful for them. So what happens is the calcium and magnesium rises in the tissues and it feels like you're in a bit of an eggshell. lot of people have been in this shell for years and years and years. They don't actually know who they are underneath. So it's really interesting when people start a program and they sit and the calcium magnesium start to decrease and the person's inner personality and vitality and true self starts to come out. Now, calcium magnesium shell tends to be a little bit more common in women. Women tend to be a little bit more sensitive to the surroundings, so they become a little more withdrawn, and this shell pattern starts to appear. I've had the shell pattern a couple of times, so I understand the feeling. You do feel withdrawn, you do feel numb, and it's very, very depressing. And that's something obviously that not a lot of people know about unless they do a hair analysis. Another big one is copper toxicity. Copper toxicity is absolutely rife today. The vast majority of people that do a hair analysis will be suffering from some degree of copper toxicity. Now, a lot of people ask why copper gets high in the body. The reason being is its twin, zinc, tends to be really, really low due to stress, due to dietary issues, due to lifestyle issues, etc., etc. And what happens is the copper tends to rise in the body. Now, when the copper's high, it causes a vast array of problems. I can't really go into all of them, but things like overthinking, paranoia, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, depression, headaches, skin problems, twitches, Tourette's, you know, you name it, copper probably plays a role in causing the symptoms that you've got. Now, I also suffered from severe copper toxicity. I was very anxious and very depressed, and as the copper starts to come out and I can see it rising on my hair analysis test, I was feeling better and better and better. Anyone that's suffering from PMS, women, you're pretty much guaranteed you've got a copper problem, so that's something to be aware of. It's very important. Another one's nickel. We call nickel the suicidal metal. Basically, it makes people feel suicidal, it gives them bad, really negative thoughts, suicidal thoughts. It's very interesting to see some people on a hair analysis, on a nutritional balancing program. They'll tell me that they're feeling suicidal, they've got suicidal thoughts, etc., etc. We'll get the test back and the nickel is kind of through the roof, and I always say to them, no wonder you've been having these thoughts. The nickel's really high in the body, or it's coming out on a retest and it's causing all these suicidal thoughts. Others are cadmium, lead, arsenic. You know, I don't think you need to be a rocket scientist to understand that lead and arsenic are pretty bad for the body. Shouldn't be there really. And what happens is a lead and arsenic toxicity, it gives a real heavy dullness and a thickness to your life. It makes you feel very, very depressed, very deeply depressed. On my first hair analysis, my arsenic actually was through the roof. I haven't seen it too often actually on other people's hair analysis tests, but mine was through the roof. So much that the lab actually told me to do a new sample from somewhere else on my body, and it came back higher. And I remember in them days I was feeling very, very dark and dull and shadowy. It's very difficult to explain, but people who are suffering from it will definitely know what I'm talking about. Now, zinc, I talked about a little bit earlier. Zinc and copper work together. Zinc's kind of like a new mineral for the human. We're still evolving, and as we evolve, new minerals tend to take over, and zinc's one of them. So zinc activates the new part of the brain, the neocortex part of the brain. Copper actually activates or stimulates the old part of the brain, the more animal type, animal part of the brain. So we need zinc to feel good in the 21st century. We need zinc to be to have our hearts open, to be spiritually aware, and to feel much more grounded and centered and happy. Other minerals are manganese, selenium, chromium. All these minerals tend to affect the glucose levels, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. Anyone that's suffering from blood sugar issues, where the brain's basically starved of sugar and then it gets a high increase in sugar and then a starvation again, is going to make a person feel depressed. People need to realise that the brain is a chemical organ, it's made up of minerals, and whatever you put into the body and how you act is going to affect the brain, so it's not always a mental issue. So depression sometimes develops from birth. The women today are unfortunately really, really unhealthy, really toxic, and this gets passed down to the baby in the womb. Some babies are born today in burnout, can you believe it or not? They're kind of predisposed to having depression even as a child. So if you've had depression all your life, then the chances are it's probably come from your mum. Children's diets, absolutely terrible. You know, you only have to go into a supermarket these days to see what's on the shelves. I've got to be honest with you, half of the stuff, well, the vast majority of the stuff in there I probably wouldn't feed my pets. So that's probably saying something. It's really, really unhealthy, and it's causing a lot of problem for children these days. Other things are anti-nutrients, additives, MSG, GMO products, etc., etc. All these are not nutrients at all. They're anti-nutrients. They're not good for the body. They're man-made, and basically they just don't regulate themselves properly in the body, and they don't give the body what it needs. So if you're putting that into your body, you're going to start feeling depressed because the body's not got what it needs to do to thrive. So other causes, as I mentioned before, hyperglycemia. Hyperglycemia is a big one. Most people today are actually sub-diabetic, believe it or not. The vast majority of people I help have some form of sugar problem. When I quit sugar in the beginning, I was actually shaking and sweating. I had insomnia for 2 weeks because I was so used to living off sugar. A very, very important one, big one for depression as well. Other causes, some people are in fast oxidation. This is a little bit like fast metabolism. It's a little bit like being in the fast lane of a motorway doing, you know, 150, 200 miles an hour, and everyone else is going slow around you. These people tend to be unwilling to change who they are as people, and it does actually cause a lot of depression, believe it or not. Another one's cancer, obvious one. Anyone that's suffering from cancer is going to have low energy, going to have a lot of toxic metals, going to have a lot of toxic chemicals. The body just doesn't get cancer. It can fight off cancer quite easily if it's really healthy, but when the body hasn't got the energy, the vitality, the nutrients, the cancer will do everything. The body will do everything it can to survive, and what it does is it pushes the tumour into an area to try and keep it alive, basically. So anyone that's suffering from this is obviously going to suffer from a lot of depression because the brain just isn't working optimally. Other ones, 4 lows. A 4 lows pattern is when the first 4 minerals on a hair analysis are below ideal. So this is calcium, magnesium, sodium and potassium. Now 4 lows, in my opinion, is a revolutionary pattern that's found in a hair analysis, and more people need to know about it. If these people go to a naturopath or doctors or anyone, these people will try and raise the adrenal glands to kind of make the person feel more energetic, more happier, etc., etc. We found over 30 years of research that doesn't work, and we've got a special program for people in 4 lows to get them out of it. In my opinion, this is one of the biggest discoveries of the 21st century. So many people are in 4 lows today, and they're really suffering intensely because they can't get out of it. And you've really got to understand hair analysis and nutritional balancing to get these people out of 4 lows, but it is doable. I've seen many people do it. Another one's Candida. Candida is a fungi, actually a beneficial fungi, but when it gets overgrown, it causes problems. Now it thrives in the brain, and obviously if you think about it, if you've got a lot of fungus in the brain, it's going to cause problems. It causes a lot of depression. It also releases a type of alcohol, and it makes a person feel drunk, dizzy, delirious, it gives them brain fog, etc., etc., and this also contributes to depression. Parasites, most people are full of parasites. If the body's environment isn't healthy and working optimally, parasites will tend to thrive. They'll thrive in the brain as well, and they'll also release toxins and chemicals that get directly into the brain, pass through the blood-brain barrier, and it causes a really horrible type of depression. Another less common one's deficiency in fatty acids, your omegas, etc., etc. It's like the oil of the body. If you think about it, if you ran your car without any oil, would it work right? Definitely not. And this also contributes to depression. So that's kind of the physical stuff. I'll go on to some emotional and mental stuff, but they definitely interlink. So sadness, feelings of loss, abandonment, fear, worry, etc. Some people just live bad lifestyles, live by themselves, they're isolated. At the end of the day, humans are animals that thrive in relationships. The whole earth is based on relationships with everything. So if you're feeling alone and abandoned, then you need to deal with that in a wholesome way. Other things are fear and worry. Fear and worry are definitely related to copper toxicity. As I mentioned before, copper toxicity is very, very common. Anyone that's suffering from fear and worry are also going to be suffering from copper toxicity as well. We generally find as the copper gets removed from the body, a person's fears and worries will actually disappear. It's very, very interesting. Mental aspects, people who play the victim, they're a victim of their circumstances, they're a victim of their environment, they're a victim of their health. What you need to be doing in order to heal and to move forward is to take full responsibility for everything in your life. Very important part of self-love is to stop playing the victim role, because it's just going to cause you more and more depression. Take responsibility for yourself, figure out how to heal the body, deal with your past traumas, false belief patterns, etc., etc., and you'll really thank yourself, and you'll feel much more happier as a result. I'll just turn over the page. So, very interesting section. It's called conflict-related depression. One type of depression is when someone's not living their full potential, when they're not living with their deeper nature, who they are as a person, not following their heart. And what tends to happen is these people get depressed and don't even realise it. These people tend to worry about what other people think. They tend to do whatever people think, do what society tells them to do, when in reality they need to get in touch with their heart, figure out who they are as people, and move forward into something that's much more wholesome and heart-centered for them. Now, the Nutritional Balancing Program does a fantastic job, because part of this is letting go of toxins, letting go of bad thinking habits, letting go of chemicals, etc., etc., so the true you can come through. And what happens is you're much more in tune with your real self, and you can make much more better decisions about your future and what you want to do. Other issues are job incompatibilities. Again, it's related to what I've just mentioned. Problems with relationships. Are you in a codependent relationship? If you're in a relationship for need or projection, then it's going to make you depressed, because you're not filling yourself from within. You need to make yourself happy first. You need to have self-love within yourself, and then a relationship adds on top of that. Some people have been the object of lies, deception and violence when they were younger, so this is obviously going to cause a lot of trauma. If your parents used to lie to you a lot, or used to be violent or abusive, then this is obviously going to affect your mind. It's going to move you away from the truth, it's going to make you confused, and it's going to make you depressed. Trauma, very similar to what I've just said. A lot of people have got traumas that they've grew up with. They're old events that have happened that are following them into their future. They don't even realise it, how it's affecting them day to day. It happened back then, they learned to deal with it in an unhealthy way, because there was a child, it was the only thing they could do. But now, when they get older, they're still in that same pattern, and they're wondering why, they're feeling depressed, they're feeling confused, they don't know what to do. It's because there's an old trauma. Again, the Nutritional Balancing Program, when you heal the body, something really fascinating happens. Traumas don't get resolved properly often because the body hasn't got the vitality and the energy to do it. When the vitality and the energy increases, we'll tend to see the traumas release, and the person's kind of freed of them. Very interesting thing. Another one's spiritual depression. So spiritual depression is often happens to people in a nutritional balancing program because they're following the truth. They're getting in touch with what's real, they're getting in touch with the truth of their health and the truth of reality. Now this can be a shock for a lot of people, because they've been living a life based on other people, based on the parents' ideas, society's ideas, and when they wake up to the truth, what's really happening, what really makes people happy, what really drives people spiritually, what's real, it can cause a bit of a depression, because you're really confused and it's kind of overwhelming a little bit. So you got to move forward a little bit at a time. These are the reasons why me and Luke do these videos, to help people move more towards the truth in an easier and safer manner. So other things, medical drugs. You know, I'm not trying to put medicine down. I think it's great for many things, but at the end of the day, if you're having medical drugs or pharmaceutical drugs, it's just going to lower the bacteria in your body. It's going to weaken the body. It's going to weaken the immune system. It's going to toxify the liver, and it's going to make a person depressed. When the body's out of whack, as I've mentioned earlier on in the video, when your digestive system's not right, when the liver's not right, when the adrenal glands aren't right because of these pharmaceutical drugs have kind of damaged them. That affects the brain and that causes depression. Okay, so how to move forward. So hopefully I've given you a lot of tips in there, a lot of different ideas. I didn't want to drag this video on for too long. The best thing to do is just to take note of what I've said. If you want a hair analysis or you want to start a nutritional balancing program, please get in touch with me and Luke and we'd be happy to help you out. Alright guys, thanks a lot for that and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.